So my next question, and this is one that I am super excited to ask because it's one that I think everyone has another answer to and we can learn so much from it. Describing things that don't exist. We are talking about magic, of course, which arguably does not exist in this world. I'm not going to have that discussion. But how can our world builders start with descriptions of things like magic or incredibly advanced technology? How do we describe something that we've never seen? How do we create that for the reader?
See, that is like, that's just writing books, creating something new that, it doesn't exist. It's so for myself, I use a lot of techniques to introduce the reader to the world. And this doesn't just apply to the magic, but to everything in the world building. There's a few different ways. One of the big things that I know, like Brandon talks about in his lectures, is the maid and butler dialogue. And this is the thing you want to avoid, but which is also a really good tool if used right. If you can do a cheat to get around this. The idea of maid and butler dialogue is that you've got a maid and butler, and they come in and talk about. They say, one says, "As you know, Lord so and so is doing this and this and this," and the other one says, "Oh, that's because this and this and this," and it's just really obvious kind of
expo dump, fast expo dump, but clunky.
Right. Now, there's cheats for doing exactly that without making it look like you're doing exactly that. One of those cheats, which I use a lot, is to have a sidekick character who doesn't know as much about what's going on, who doesn't know as much about the magic or as much about the politics or whatever. And that way you've got two characters that can naturally talk about something that the reader needs to know about. And that's a really common thing. That's very, it can border certainly on maid and butler dialogue, and you do want to you want to edit it well, basically, but it's a really good technique for getting information to the reader without stopping and explaining things. I have a scene that in my very first book, Promise of Blood, I remember, because I have so many freaking magic systems in that book, I remember my editor coming back and saying, like, near the end of what we were working of edits, coming back and saying, "Look, you have not explained this other magic system very much. You've been very vague about it." And so I ended up putting in a scene where one of the main characters goes to a library and is searching for books on sorcery.
I remember that scene.
Because he is not he is a knacked, which is a minor sorcery that gives him perfect memory. But he does not know that much about the two bigger sorceries. And so he literally goes to a library and he's trying to find out more. And so he has a brief discussion with, I think it's the librarian or one of his friends or something like that. It's been a long time since I read the book. But he has a brief discussion with that character that sketches things out. Now, if I remember right, 7 years after I last read the book, I do border a little close to maid and butler dialogue. Probably because it was late in edits and I was just trying to get the stupid thing back to my editor. But it's an example of being able to have a conversation that there is a reason in world for that conversation to happen,
Sure.
which is really important. And that's how you get around maid and butler dialogue. Because maid and butler dialogue it hinges on the fact that there's really not a reason that these two characters would have that conversation, because they both already know the information.
Absolutely. It's something that Mary Colwell describes as you know, John. And it just feels super awkward. And as you're reading it, you're like, it's horrible. And you're absolutely right. That's a super important thing and a great way to do exposition.